a little part of me was just like, what, why should I kill this person? Like, what, really? Like, really? They don't shoot, we don't shoot. And then your mate gets blown up. And that changes very quickly. That it just, you just think you fucks. Like, not being funny. And then you get this battle in your head. So talking about battle in your head and fears versus experiences, let's talk about the fears and experiences. If you have the fear of death keeps you alive, but if you're trained not to fear death, it's very, very, you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable.
Linking back to sort of the training and sort of your fears and stuff, would you say that in training and stuff you were built to sort of not brainwashed in a sense, but your fears are sort of eliminated and you sort of turn to not robots, but you do what you're told and you don't question or think twice or evaluate what you've been saying? Or do you, when you're being told, you're thinking in your head like, what's going to happen? Is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? Or are you very head down? He tells me to do that, I'm going to do that and not think twice.
Jump in there. I said this once. The effectiveness of a soldier is in his reaction time to do as he's told. When your skills and drills kick in and your section commander needs to know that you're going to do what you're told in the moment, he ain't got time for someone that sits there and questions it, because it's in that moment that is the difference between either keeping us alive or not. So when you say brainwashed, I wouldn't say it's brainwashed. It's more you're not reliable. The word I'm looking for, it's like I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's escaped me. But you do,
Conditioned?
yeah. You're just, we don't need people that question what you're being asked, because in the moment we ain't got time for that.
I think you try to train to perfection almost. That when it actually comes doing what you need to do, it just without even a thought process. In other words, Lucas, so it's like when you brush your teeth, you don't actually think about brushing your teeth. You're just kind of doing it. And it's the same in the army. It's like when he asks you to do something, you're not even processing it as such. You're just doing it. You're getting on with it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I questioned my section commander a few times. I hold my hand up to that. You know what I mean? Which he'll tell you weren't happy about, but that's just a human response every now and again, you know. But yeah, you train in the army over and over again until the point where you're just so fed up with doing them drills or doing those things that you've just had enough. But yeah, that's how you do it in the army. You almost pretty much train. So say if you was a private, you will pretty much train to be the guy above. That's what makes the British Army quite good at times. So like if the rank above you gets hurt, you can almost jump in his position and try to take over.
And also a lot of money is invested into making sure a British infantry soldier is trained up on all weapon systems to a decent standard. So just in case, say, the machine gunner gets shot, any other soldier can still get on that machine gun and operate it. Whereas other armies around the world, sometimes, well, I don't say sometimes, other armies around the world, you just get issued with one weapon system and say, you are now LMG gunner. You will be a master at the LMG. Whereas British troops are like, this is the LMG. You can shoot this to a good standard, tick. This is the rifle with UGL. You can shoot this with a decent standard, tick. This is the grenade. This is the magazine. This is a handgun. You're trained, tick. Do you know what I mean? And they train us up on all weapon systems. So if, say, someone like the machine gunner gets shot, you can just step in. So it's quality over the quantity. And yeah, British troops, very effective, very effective. Yeah, you don't want to question.
Sorry, do you feel like, having been there and experienced it and seen it with your own eyes, do you feel like war is worth it? Do you feel like war is pointless?
Someone said to me once, Jules, do you like drinking Coca-Cola? Or, I was holding a can of Coke when they said it. And I said, yeah, I do. And he goes, if you didn't go to war, you wouldn't be drinking that Coke. Do you enjoy that your niece goes to school? Yes, I do. If you didn't go to war, she wouldn't be going to school. There is a massive catch-22. That's a great question, Liz. The good versus the bad. Like, there's always someone that's got to do a job that for now, like in the moment, you just don't see the grander effect. It could be good, could be bad. But, a lot of people are like, we can still get there without war. Now we can. 2020, moving forward, where the human race currently is, we've got enough food on this planet. We know there is enough food to feed all mouths. We know we can get to where we want to be. But when it was, looking back past, we had some right crazy people we had to defeat, man. We had some real
But I
issues.
think we needed that to probably learn from,
We were savages. The human race, this is like going on a tangent. Sorry, I love going on a tangent. We're still savages to a degree. We're still savages. There's something in our DNA that we need to override before you need to overcome the feel of greed, the energy of greed, the energy of selfishness, the energy of savagery. Like, we might glorify it, we might put clothes on, and we might eat with knife and fork. Ultimately, we're still a little bit savage in a sense that people aren't really at the unified level yet. It's quite heartbreaking.
Yeah, my family, my father and my grandfather were both military men, and they both served in the United States Air Force. And my dad just hates war, full stop. I don't think many people like it, but he just sees it as pointless. But equally, he always said that there will always be war until we get over ourselves. And I don't know, I just think it's I like to think that where we are at now, 2021, moving forward, we've learned from the past. But you're right, Jules, we are savages, just in nicer clothes, I suppose, than back in the day.
I think some men are still wired for war. I say men. It's not a
I
place.
always, if they said there's a war coming that I've got to go and fight, and it's got to be a real purpose, because let's not forget, a lot of wars in the past would have been for their land. Why not fight a war for your land, for your homes, or to take a bit of land? I mean, wars used to have purposes, Nowadays it's a bit different, isn't it? Like, if you have a war, but if there was a war that would make my son safe, so he didn't have to fight it, I would go quite open-armedly. But that is I don't know how to explain it, but that is the part inside of me where I don't mind fighting. Do you know what I mean? I will quite happily fight next to men who would fight with me by my side. Obviously, it's not what I want in life, but I'd have no problem to do it again.
I think it's in all of us to stand up. If we really had to and it come to it, I think it's in a lot of us, a survival instinct. I'm not saying that everybody is equipped, but I do think it's that survival switch. Because I agree, Chris, if it was, for the sake of my children, I would get up, load me up, I'm going. I'm not sure I'd be very good at it, but I'll come and find you.
I've got more reasons to fight for now, almost.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know now, I wouldn't go back to war.
You would, mate. No. I'd drag you with me.
I wouldn't. I know it's like very selfish, but I believe that that is the fight. That's the last resort. If I'm going to war, it's because someone's invaded my lands. It's not the other way around.
Totally.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it the other way around anymore. It's unfair. It's not cool.
That's similar to how my dad's perspective was on it.
Yeah. I'll be defender. I won't be the oppressor anymore.
I think it's a good time to say, on behalf of everyone else, I really do appreciate you and Chris opening up about your experiences and stuff, because
absolutely
it means a lot to you and it is quite sensitive in some places. And I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm sure anyone else listening extend their thanks as well. But I think you have had, I might be wrong, but I'm going to ask it, there have been good memories from going to war. So I want to ask you both, what's the best memory that sticks in your mind, or the funniest? Because ultimately you two wouldn't have met and we wouldn't be here doing this podcast if you both hadn't had gone.
Yeah, Lucas, you're absolutely right. There are some funny moments at war that you just think this would never happen anywhere else. So I'll tell you a funny moment, right? We had this attachment called Fat Jono, And when he joined our platoon, he was like I think he done something like he was in a fob. So he had something to do with like the radios. He was a signaller, right? But Fat Jono was so keen to be in with us infantry boys. He'd do any, do you know what I mean? It was weird, right? But you know, we call him Fat Jono. I mean, I'm not saying that because like, I'll say exactly what it was. He was known as Fat Jono because he was a bit fat. And it was like, you know, it's Fat Jono. For some reason, Jono tried to impress us by cooking. We didn't have a chef in my fob. It was just rations. And when you got like the 10-man ration packs, you had your own individual ration packs. And you had 10-man ration packs. And everyone would always scrap for the Oreo bars and, you know, do you know what I mean? The Yorkie bars and just the good ration packs. You didn't want the crap ones like corned beef hash. Blah. But you're just like, you know, distributing evenly. But Jono, in the 10-man ration packs, you could actually cook up a decent bit of scoff. You could have like pasta and this like mince and stuff. And Jono's like, yeah, I can cook. We're like, all right, Jono, let's, you know what I mean? We're all quite fatigued. Yeah, if you don't mind, mate, that really mean a lot to us. About 2 blokes in my platoon managed to have the stomach to stay strong. The rest of us, mate, it was horrible. It was like, it was D and V, man. It was V and D. It was horrible, man. It was coming out both ends, Lucas. It was disgusting. It was like this at the same time. It's just, I'm like, Fat Jono, what you done? Everyone, all of us, yeah. And the whole platoon. And we had to get people come in and like take over the stag for like 2 days, man. We were out. Diarrhea, drinking shitloads of diarrhea just to get the salts and sugars back in. And yeah, it was funny. It wasn't funny, but it was flipping funny. And it was one of those moments.
It was memorable by the sounds of it.
Crazy, trust. The last thing you want out on the ground is that. You're vulnerable as fuck. You really are. Nothing you can do. You're just bedded.
Yeah, nasty. Yeah, I had it once in Iraq, man. Not nice. I've got a funny story for you. So when I was in Iraq, we used to use like interpreters, obviously. So when we went out on the ground, we could sort of speak to the locals, and we would sort of get the vehicles ready, because most of the time we do like mobile patrols, like go out in the vehicles and then stop off at the police station, speak to them, see how they're doing. But this one morning we sort of got ready, getting all the vehicles sorted, and the boss would always say to one of us, "Can you go and get the interpreter, get him ready to get in the vehicles?" So that day it was a guy called Watley. Little Watley sort of was like, yeah, I'll go and get him, boss. So Watley basically went off to get the interpreter. So he's gone over, and they lived in this sort of tiny little building. We had just like a couple of bunk beds in there. Knocked on the door, no answer. So he's opened the door, and unfortunately, the interpreters are having sex with each other. He's like, Chris, no, you can't say pretty much. Obviously, he's come back and told the boss, and the boss is going mad because he ain't got the interpreters. Yeah,
We've got a job to do, and they're flipping guys in there having sex with each other.
Oh, mate. And the thing is, it weren't the first time it happened either. And obviously, Watley, he was in bits. Like he was scarred. He felt scarred for life. This guy, do you know what I mean? They got sacked, obviously, and that was that, mate. Oh God.
All right, and that is
that was a pricey session.
That was that story. Yeah, crazy things. So talking about like he was scarred for life. Let's go in with side effects. You know, obviously with what we're talking about, what do soldiers think of war? Let's talk about post-war. So my last tour was 2012. So it's now 2021. So you fast forward 8 years, 9 years. I'm shocking. 9 years. I can't believe it was that long ago. And how young I was back then. If I meet people my age back then, so what was I? 24? And my first tour, I was younger, 21. I see 21-year-olds now and 24-year-olds now. Some of them don't know what they're doing with their lives. Granted, I thought I knew what I was doing with my life, but I had a whole life ahead of me and I was prepared to die. That's a reality check for me. But when I think about it now, it's like a film that replays in my head, and there's some good parts, like we mentioned, the stuff we would laugh at, crack up for days about, like, remember that time. And then there's also the stuff that, you know, I didn't really want to go into on this because it is sad, it is sensitive. You know, when friends get killed or blown up or lose limbs and scars, like lose their eyesight, and you process this later. You process it when you're a veteran. And I say veteran, not civilian, because we're not civilian. I want to say this to anyone that's watching this episode who is a soldier or now a veteran or out the army. You are a veteran. There's a massive difference because you're not civilian. You don't think the same. You haven't witnessed the same lifestyle for a period. So you cannot be the same. One thing I want to stress is there's a lot of pressure on soldiers to try and fit back into society. We can coexist in society, but I think society needs to understand that we're veterans, you know, accept us as being veterans, people that have been to war through choice as well. I get it. Like, it was all choice. So I'm not going to say like, woe is us, not like that, but have a bit of understanding that we're not civilians, we're veterans. And yeah, what I was getting at is, as a veteran, you know, you will suffer if you haven't processed it, post-traumatic stress, because your mind takes time to now acknowledge what you went through when there's no threat, you know, when the times of calmer. Like, I'd say 2018 was for me the year when that wave of memory came back and I started to view it differently. I wasn't watching the film as the person I was back then. I'm a new man now, and I was watching it as the man I am now. And that reality hits, like, we were vulnerable. Like, it's real. It was almost like it weren't real back then. It's real now. It's hard to explain.
I think
So
when
yeah,
you're in
side
it,
effects.
it's all going so fast and it's so crazy, and you are literally surviving and looking after people in your, you know, brotherhood and your regiment, that when you come back and it's all civilized and it's calmer, I think then you probably have the time to process it. But it's not like as soon as you land on English soil and you're back home, you start to process it. I think it's when you are trying to probably adapt to having come back from that, like you said, it hit you in 2018, that it came back. And I think that society probably doesn't realize that veterans, it can happen at any time. You know, somebody could come back and seem like they've just adapted really well and got back into their normal life back home, and then 10 years, 15 years later, boom, P.T.S.D. And
a lot of veterans cope with always trying to make jokes of things. A couple traits I've noticed, and it's just an observation. We have a lot of banter to get us through the hard times. You either laugh or cry, like Chris says, and rarely will we choose to cry about things. No, not going to happen. Rather make a light joke about it, turn it into a joke. And you can continue that for as long as whatever, but eventually it'll all creep up. And you know, you will have to have that cry. I swear to God, I don't know why. I might just be me as a male, but my tear ducts weren't working for years. I hadn't cried in years. And when I became a civilian, someone said to me, "Has the army desensitized you?" Never even asked myself the question.